So iPhone 13 is here and I have a question. Why they didn't add the USB Type-C again? So recently we understood that Europe is serious about unifying charging ports across all the smartphones with USB Type-C, and that includes Apple as well. In the announcement of iPhone 13, we saw that Apple add USB Type-C to iPads and thought a lot why it's an improvement over the Lightning
And we
port.
know that iPad users rely on ultra-fast connection. The most mobile iPad is about to get a lot faster and even more versatile. iPad mini now has a USB-C port, so you get the same great USB-C functionality that we brought to iPad Air, which means it's up to 10 times faster than its predecessor. So iPad mini can now connect to a vast ecosystem of USB-C accessories, which is great. Whether you're a photographer who needs to connect to cameras when shooting on location, or a doctor in a remote area using Butterfly to conduct an ultrasound.
But when we got to the iPhone, there was not even one single word about changing the Lightning. People want that change for a while now, and for good reasons too. It's way more convenient, especially now that Apple does not include a charger in the box. Also, it's way faster in data transfer, so why Apple does not make this change? For the answer, we should see why Apple chose the Lightning port in the first place. Back around 2010, Apple was planning the iPhone 5. And it was going to be so thin that the good old-fashioned 30-pin dock would no longer fit inside. We have another video about this subject, link right there. So Apple needed something new. You see, their technology team was already working with Intel and others on what would become USB-C, but because it was going to be an open standard, it was going to take a long time to finalize. So Apple took many of the same principle as USB-C, made the actual plug smaller by putting the pins outside instead of inside, and come up with the Lightning. By September 2012, Lightning was ready to ship. The spec for USB-C, by contrast, wasn't even finalized until August of 2014. Almost 2 years later, and the first USB-C device, Apple's 12-inch MacBook, wasn't even announced until the March of 2015, 2.5 years after Lightning shipped on the iPhone. Then why didn't Apple switch to USB-C when it was ready? Connector transitions are a very big deal. Apple moved iPod from FireWire to dock in April of 2003, but it was such a niche industry that only early adopters were affected. When Apple moved the iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch to Lightning in fall of 2012, almost a decade later, it was much more painful for far more people. Many of them had already bought a bunch of dock cable accessories over the years that suddenly didn't fit their new phone. And to make matters worse, Apple completely failed to have adapters and cables available at launch, forcing not just early adopters but a lot of regular people doing regular upgrades to wait days and weeks before they could even plug back into their existing chargers and their audio system at home, work, or in car. The big advantage USB Type-C offered back then, being a standard, was also a disadvantage. While Apple could control Lightning cables and accessories to the point where any consumer could be relatively certain anything they bought would work, the initial USB Type-C rollout was a nightmare by comparison, with confusing and poor quality cables flooding the market. And if you want to see a USB Type-C cable did something, for example, had a display output, you should just buy some cables and tested them. There was no way around it. So if you even ask a mainstream consumer to go through yet another transition and buy yet another new adapter, especially ones as potentially problematic as USB Type-C, the answer would be No. Also, Apple, after removing the headphone jack, believes in wireless technology. With iPhone 12, they introduced the MagSafe, but still we had the Lightning port. I think there were two reasons behind it. We all heard before iPhone 12 that they are going to be portless, but they didn't. First, they want to give it enough time that accessories got made for the MagSafe while holding on to Lightning while making the transition smoother. We know they are already working on a data transition via the MagSafe. The only reason is standing between the iPhone becoming portless. So that's why Apple didn't move to USB Type-C in iPhone 13. They are already planning for a portless iPhone that has more water resistant and also more durability overall. And also with 5G and fast Wi-Fi network, using cable for data transition are becoming old-fashioned for most users very fast. And if that also can be done using MagSafe, there is no real disadvantage. Also with wireless, they can make transition as smooth as possible instead of sudden change in case of using USB Type-C. See what YouTube wants you to watch next. Thanks a lot for watching us until the end. If you disagree with anything, leave a comment down below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you don't, press dislike. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.